Namaskar Elarguno. Good morning, good evening, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of the program. We'll just start with chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya 5 times, and then I'll hand it over to Sundaraguru for today's day 2 program. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Over to you, Sundar.
नमस्कार आचार्य पवनोस्माकम् आचार्याणि च भारती देवो नारायण शेषः देवी मंगलदेवता. Incidentally, the shloka or the mantra that Sri Narada, actually preaches to Dhruva is indeed very, very special. Because after chanting this, what Dhruva says, or rather can't say, is that when he looks at Lord Narayana, who is in front of him, he is barely able to speak. And he says, all these days I was here to see him, but the moment I saw him, he has become dumbstruck. So Lord Narayana then takes his Panchajanya and keeps it on his cheeks. As we know, the Shankha or the conch shell is always a little cooler. It's cooler than room temperature. So with that cold, he is able to, he gets that energy to open up, and then he is able to talk. And the first thing he says is Yonta Pravishya Mama Vacha Mimam Prasuktam Sanjeevayati. So it is you, Lord Narayana, who has to go inside and then be able to make me speak. So I think that is the anusandhana that we all need to have, that whatever we do, it may appear that it is we who are doing it, but it's actually God who's giving us the energy and the capability to do that. And if you look at any person, let us say he's blind, it's not that they don't have eyes, they have the eyes, but the eyes unfortunately have lost the power to see, and that is why they are not able to see. So very important prayer. So with that, let us get started on day 2 of the lessons from the Bhagavad Gita for professional excellence. We saw a few things yesterday. We will try and summarize it today as well. But let us move on and learn more ways in which Bhagavad Gita, inspires us to become better professionals, better human beings, better leaders, and so on. So one thing that we concluded yesterday as the last point was Arjuna, when he's speaking to Lord Krishna, is seeking Shreyas, which is a long-term view. I think, unfortunately, because of several pulls and pressures, some of these may be very valid as well. We become very short-sighted. We are not able to look at things beyond a certain, horizon, and that can create a very long-term impact in our lives and in our career. So, how we need to develop a slightly long-term view of what we are doing. So the next lesson from the Bhagavad Gita comes a little later, where Arjuna actually laments to Krishna that, what is the point in fighting this war? I think we get this question many times. Why am I doing what I'm doing? What is it that I'm going to get finally? Right? I'm just going to be feeding myself, maybe feeding my family, and we're all going to live. But is this worth it? Because the amount of efforts that we have to put, the amount of stress that we all go through, is it worth it? So, Arjuna actually says it so responsibly. And that is why, we call Arjuna an Uttamadhikari. Now, there's a very important part in Bhagavad Gita, which is that, most commentators on Bhagavad Gita have said that, Arjuna is not an Uttamadhikari. He's an Adhamadhikari, on the contrary, because he is asking very silly questions. These are not the questions that he should have been asking in the first place. But it is Srimad Madhvacharya in his Gita Bhashya, who would say that no, he's an Uttamadhikari. He's a person who's asking the right questions. How come others did not get that question? He got those questions because at heart, he is a wonderful human being. And despite being in a position, he does express in Bhagavad Gita that I don't know whether we are going to win or they are going to win. But it's very clear that the Pandavas have a clear upper hand because each of the persons in the Kaurava army is someone who is destined to die here, mainly because of the astras that Arjuna and all the other warriors had. If we just sum total that even before the war, it is very clear that the Pandavas are going to win the war. He does express that. And we don't know whether they are going to win or we are going to win. But if you look at all the other shlokas, it's very clear that Arjuna is clear that he's going to win. So that time he asks a very interesting question. He says, what is the point if we sit on a throne which has got the blood of our, ancestors, which is smeared on the throne? Bhunjiya bhoktan rudarak pratigdan. So what is the point? Is this even worth? At that time, there is Lord Krishna then says, then goes on to the actual teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, where he says it is not a short-term view. You're still looking at this war as a personal war. You need to look at it as a dharmic war. At the time of a war, you are a Kshatriya, and your number one dharma is to protect dharma. You're not doing it. Instead, you are saying, whether I will win. Here, it's not a question of who will win or who will lose. It is a question of who is on the right side. And even if you lose, you will get the Swarga. You will die and you will go to Swarga. And if you live and win, you will get the kingdom, which you will run for protection of dharma. So Pandavas, whatever they have done, is to protect the dharma. So therein there is a strategic goal that we have. I think the next thing is in our career, we need to develop a long-term view and have a strategic goal that is associated and a purpose that is associated with that goal. So let me narrate a rather personal anecdote. It happened in the Prime Minister's office a few years back. When it comes to short-term agreements, I think you will always have agreements. But when it comes to long-term views, people say, why should we think so much ahead? Let's do what is required. So it happened that the plan was it was a 3-day meeting. 2 days, the first 2 days, we were all supposed to be seated and discuss what the plans are. And on the third day, the Prime Minister himself will come and we have to present to him. That was the plan. So on the first 2 days, all the other members of the committee, we sat till quite late in the night. It was almost 2 a.m. in the morning. And everybody said, look, let's all go and, go home. We will come tomorrow, reconvene tomorrow, and then put it in the form of a presentation. Now, next day morning, originally, the Prime Minister was supposed to come to the meeting at 9 o'clock. But the people from the PMO said, look, there has been a change in the schedule. He's likely to come just before lunch, around 12:30. But you people, please be ready. Just in case there is any further change, we will let you know. So everybody at 2 a.m. in the morning decided that, look, we've had a very long day and let us leave. Then somehow I felt that, since they have told us to be ready, it's better we finish the work. So I told them, let's finish. They said, look, we are all very tired. Since you have been at the center of all these discussions, you can plan and make that presentation ready. So I sat for the next 15-20 minutes. Everything was anyway clear. I made that presentation and then I saved it and I left for the day. Next day morning, we all reconvened at 8:30 as we were supposed to. And after some 20 minutes, I took them all through. I was just taking them through what I had prepared. Within 20 minutes, the people from the PMO came and said, look, there has been again a change in schedule. The Prime Minister, he'll be here in the next 10 minutes. And everybody was, oh my God, what do we do now? So we said, no, we will, we are ready with the presentation. Let us present it. So I requested the senior most person on the panel, Dr. Deepak Phatak from IIT Bombay, to present it to the rest of the to Prime Minister and his office, and Nirmala Sitharaman, the Finance Minister, and a couple of other people who are there. And he said, no, I think you have summarized it very well and you have made the PPT. So why don't you present it? I said, look, I'm the junior most in the hierarchy, and frankly, I'm not in a state of mind to present to the Prime Minister. They said, no, let's do it. You should do it. So I went in, and the Prime Minister came and we presented to him. And he received it very well. He was very happy with what he saw. And then he left for the day. Everybody had a big sigh of relief. Why am I saying this? Because there's a very important lesson, is that the leader always does things which are right. He does not do things which are always nice. So we get caught between what is right and what is nice. And this is always a difficult decision to make. Let us say you want to say, okay, today is Ekadashi, but let us not fast today. We'll fast some other day. The moment you say that, you're more likely to find people who will agree with you. But the leader has to stop and say, no, let us do what is right. In Ramayana, we see this. Hanumanta and all the other, the monkeys have gone down south, and they have lost, they have reached the end of the shores, and they are not able to find Sita. So all these, everyone else, including Jambavanta, who is the senior most amongst all the others, they all say, look, why do we have to go back? Because what Sugriva has told is a very harsh punishment if we go without finding, Goddess Sita. So let us do one thing. Let's all settle down here. A lot of lovely fruits and vegetables and everything that we need is they're all here. We will have a nice meal and we'll stay here. What is wrong? If we go back, he's going to kill all of us. Because Sugriva didn't say that I will punish you, I will shout at you. He said, if you come without finding Goddess Sita, I'm going to kill you. That's why it's called Sugrivagne. It's used in the Kannada newspapers even today. If the government gives a very harsh order or a very strict order, it is said that it is Sugrivagne. People who do not believe in Ramayana also use it, very surprisingly. So this Sugrivagne is there. So why do that? Let's not do this. We are all very happy where we are. But it's only Hanumanta who says, look, we are here for a mission. We have to find Goddess Sita. And he tells them finally, look, I'm going to try to convince you. If you are not getting convinced, I'm going to take a stick and punish all of you. And the last thing anybody, the army of monkeys want is a spanking from Hanuman himself. Because that's going to be very harsh. So they all decide. That's why they say, Ahud Ahudu Hanumanta, Ahuduni Balavanta, Moola Guru Ahudu. So you are the person who is the teacher. That is why Srimad Madhvacharya, who is the incarnation of Vayu, of Hanuman, is someone whom we pray as the ultimate guru, because he is the one. All the other people, the Vanaras, are not some ordinary people. They are all gods who have descended on this. So, it is rather, it is very important that, they lose way, but Hanuman prevails. And finally, they all decide that the best way to find an answer is to go on a fast. And they all go on a fast, and just as we know, then they get to know how Sampati, who is the brother of Jatayu, he comes and tells them that, once I had tried to actually, catch the sun god, and my wings got burnt because I was trying to fly higher than what I'm supposed to. And since they got burnt, I have fallen on the ground. And you people are sitting here, and all of you went on a fast. All the monkeys then go on a fast to seek an answer. Again, it's a very important thing that whenever we are in a fast for a spiritual purpose, it leads to what is called Nanodaya. And that it comes, why does it come? Because it is Upavasa. So, what is the meaning of Upavasa? Upavasa is not just fasting. Upavasa, Upa means close, closer to. So, Vasa, closer to God. Vasa means to stay. To stay closer to God, you have to do Upavasa. So when you do that, then finally they get the answer that indeed Goddess Sita is on the other side of the ocean, in the island, and so on and so forth. Sampati would have seen that, and he gives that information to them. Then the army of monkeys then decide what is to be done, and so on. And we will not go into that. But that is the important task of a leader. So in any leadership position, we are always tempted to take, want to bypass things. We want to take the easy way out or easier way out all the time. But that may not be the best in the best interest. So as they say, shortcut is the place which takes you to a destination that you never intended to go. That's not the destination. Here, again, very importantly, Lord Krishna's advice is that you focus on what you are supposed to do. Do not find, you may not always get the right result, but you will get, you're taking the whole team and yourself in the right path. So we sometimes have to make difficult decisions. We don't have to do it always, but sometimes when it comes to the crux, we might have to take a difficult decision, which may not be nice, but it is in the long term view of the betterment of everyone. Just look at a child. Which child wants to go and get a vaccination? Nobody wants to go. No child wants. Five, forget about children. Even we do not want to go and take a vaccination, right? We get palpitations when we have to take even a small blood test which is to be taken. We so worried and so scared what's going to happen to us. It's not a desirable thing. But just imagine all parents in the world decide that, oh no, my child is going to undergo some pain. So let him not take this vaccination, and we will leave it like that. Is it a good thing for the child? No. So I think it's important for the leader to do the right thing and not just the nice thing. I would like to also, give one example that happened in real life other than this. Many years ago, I used to work for Wipro, and I was the corporate brand manager there, working very closely with Mr. Premji. So every year, what would happen is the company would induct about 150 students who had finished their MBA courses and joining in junior management positions in the company. So they were all, so they had all joined, and Mr. Premji used to address them at the end of the training program. So the training program got done. Then Mr. Premji addressed them, and he asked a question, to the people there, saying that do they have a question on Wipro that he can answer? There was one person there, one boy, who stood up and said, Mr. Premji, I want to know which is the biggest challenge Wipro is facing. And Mr. Premji smiled, but very quickly and very surely he gave an answer. He said, you know what? It's China. We are not able to grow in China. This is way back. This is in 2004. And we, every other company seems to grow. We are the only people who are not growing. So we should do something about this. And he just smiled and kept quiet. The boy said, thank you, sir. I got my answer. And he sat down. So Mr. Premji got very curious. Why was this fellow asking this question? So he asked him, why did you ask this question? What is the intent? So the boy gave an answer which is ringing in my ears as though I heard it just yesterday, though it's almost 20 years now. He said, after this training induction program is done, we are all supposed to meet HR and indicate where do we want to be posted. I got my answer. I want to be posted in China. So Mr. Premji was so, enamored and so delighted to hear that. But true to his style, he didn't say much. He just smiled. And even when I was walking out with him, he asked me, "Hey, can you find out what's the name of that boy?" I'm really impressed by what he said. And of course, I went and asked him. And HR was telling him, hey, you know what, it's not easy to survive in China and so on and so forth. He just said, "What? I mean, what's the problem?" He said, "Look, you have to speak in Mandarin." So he said, "I will learn Mandarin. I've learned so many things in life. Yeah, it may take time, but I will learn." So this whole thing gave me a different perspective about how one should make a career choice. Make the career choice which is important to the organization, not yourself. Because if you are solving the biggest problem in the organization, obviously the organization give you higher level of recognition to your competence and your attitude. See, even if you fail, anyway, Wipro was failing in China at that time. Nothing would have changed. But if you succeed, the upside is higher. You will still be known as a warrior. This is precisely what Krishna has told Arjuna. That your job today, it is not an optional thing for you. Nobody is asking you whether you should be fighting the war or not. You have to fight the war. It's a dharma yuddha. So even if you don't fight the war and just go away somewhere to meditate or do something else, that is not what you are supposed to do. This is what we learned yesterday also, called niyata karma. All of us are ordained to do certain things. See, many of you are staying in the US. So it's a duty of everybody there to pay taxes, for instance. That is your duty. That's not a favor you're doing to the United States. Similarly, the laws, the regulations there in the country that we live in, we have to adhere to that. We need not behave as though we are doing some favor to that. It is a country that has given us a place to stay and a livelihood. We all have to abide by that law. So therefore, like these laws are applicable to us by default. There are certain karmic and Vedic laws which apply to us. That collection of that is what we call as dharma. Dharma is not something else. It's nothing but the right conduct that we should have. So if a policeman is letting go of a criminal, however close that person may be to him, it is a crime. He cannot do that and he has to stop it. This is the message that Krishna is giving to Arjuna. So with this, I think he moves on to then do something which is called which is talking about what should be the mindset that we have. Arjuna then says that, look, my mind is very anxious. I'm not able to think right. In this state, what should I do? That is when Krishna tries to calm him down. He gives a very important lesson, which is not just for our career, but for our life, is how to develop that state of equanimity. It is very, very important that people have a state, a mind which is still, right? You cannot see the image of any object in a water which is moving. Have you ever seen the image of something in a ocean, for example? It doesn't work. You cannot see the image because all the time the waves are coming one after the other. The only place you can see that is in the lake when the mind is still. So this is how so how does one get to that state is by meditation. We could probably have another session some other time on the how do we get into a state of meditation. Of course, Bhagavad Gita mentions this in just two shlokas, but this is elaborated in other places, like the Bhagavata. Even in that short message, Krishna is actually telling us the procedure for meditation. It just goes to underline how important meditation is as a part of our sadhana. You go to any form of religion, anywhere in the world, meditation is common between all of them. Of course, we may all, the procedures, the process, etc., may be different, but the fact that one has to meditate is something which is common across all religions. And there are many, of course, many styles of meditation and so on. So this is a very crucial thing for us to know, which is how do we get to a state of equanimity? As a leader, as a person who is seeking excellence, imagine you're getting pulled in every direction that you see. Then it becomes people will slowly get to know, oh, this person is not grounded. So every time something happens, it is very easy to disturb him. So the Bhagavad Gita gives a very, very clear signal that only when your mind is still, one will be able to pursue a spiritual path. And there's a very simple technique which is again mentioned in the Bhagavata, is that when, let us say, you start feeling very elated, you just don't know how to control your happiness. All you have to do is you have to say, this happiness, state of happiness is very good. It has come to me because of God's grace, and it will last for some time, but may not last forever. But for this moment when I am feeling happy, I'm thanking God, right? And when a person is sad or stuck with some kind of sorrow, again the same thing, nothing changes. This state of sorrow that I am there is not pleasant, but it has come to me from God. It has come to me because of my karma. It did not come to me because was being unfair to me. It is what I am ordained to undergo. It has also come from the same God who gave me happiness earlier. I pray to Him that this sorrow goes off so that I can pursue my state of sadhana. And I request God to give me that sense not to repeat the mistake or the papa karma that got me in this first place. If you just say this, initially it will look weird to us because this is not how our mind is engineered. The moment you something goes right, what do we do? I always planned it like this. I always thought of like this. You know why this happened? For 5 years, I was planning that I should build a house like this. That is a state that we get into instantly. And the moment something goes wrong, what do we do? Who did this? Right? We ask, to put it in Kannada, we say, Yaar ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು? Right? It's not that somebody did anything. It's our own karma. We don't realize this. Great lesson coming to us from Ramayana also. Again, when on the previous day when Lord Rama, he's going to be consecrated as a king, and next day morning, early morning, he takes a bath and he goes into the palace, and he doesn't see anybody there. Dasharatha is not there, Kaikeyi is not there, nobody is there. And he asks somebody, where are the people? I mean, today is supposed to be the event. They say, no, they've all gone into the Kopagraha. There's a room. If you get angry, you can go into that room and you can sort of brood there. And it is an indication to everybody else that, look, you are angry and they should come and, palliate you or, tell you something nice so that you come out of that state. So that was the system in those days. Unfortunately, we seem to have made the whole house like that. It was nice. At least there was a discipline that if you're angry, you please go there. Right here, no, you don't have to go. You have to stay here, show that anger on everybody, even people who are totally disconnected with this. We will tell them why we are angry and so on. So, anyway, they had that, and Lord Rama enters and he finds Dasharatha is on the floor. He's in a state of semi consciousness. He's losing consciousness because of what Kaikeyi had asked. We all know the story. So Kaikeyi is very angry. She's looking outside the window, and all the other sages, the Kulaguru, Vasishta, and everybody, they're extremely upset with Kaikeyi for having asked this. But when all this is done, they suddenly look up and they all ask, what is Lord Rama's first sentence? He looks at everybody and he says, why are you all like this? Have I done something wrong? Right? This is the state of accountability, right? He's taking accountability for that state immediately onto himself. He's the person who's done nothing at all, totally disconnected with what has happened. But his first question is, have I done something wrong? What would be our incident? Who did this? Why are you all upset? Who got you upset like this? Immediately we transfer the blame on this. We never realize that we could have been the person who actually created the trouble in the first place. Right? So this state, coming back to the state of equanimity that one needs to have, if you start doing it over a period of time, this equanimity comes to us all the time. It comes by practice. And the commentators on Bhagavad Gita actually dwell a lot on this topic, because they say it is prayatna purvaka. That means it has to come by practice. It won't come because our mind, the natural flow of our mind is in the opposite direction. If the water has to come from a, from a, place which is at a higher altitude down, we don't need anything. We don't need force. You just have to leave the water, it will just flow down. That's a natural state. But if you have to take the water from other way around, then you need a pump. That means a deliberate effort has to be put. So our minds, general tendency is to lose equanimity at the drop of a hat, lose focus at the drop of a hat. So you have to very consciously bring it together. And this is very, very important in in a state where in the professional world as well, right? I heard a very interesting interview with Mr. Narayan Murthy when he had visited my company. I was actually interviewing him and I asked him a question. Then, Mr. Murthy, what is the biggest challenge Infosys has ever faced? And he said, look, one fine day, one of the banks, a US bank, called us one day and told us that they will not be working with us anymore. And that was an internal decision, and we had to respect it. But what it meant was 25% of the company's revenue went away on a single day. So that is when I learned my first lesson, he says, where he says that I did not panic, but I acted. So from there on, from all the way I was driving back home from Electronic City, I was thinking that what could we do to ensure that in the future, Infosys revenues are not dependent so large on one single client, and how do we sort of mitigate that in that place. I put together a committee overnight. We met next day. Our focus was not what we can do with this, because that is already over. The company has been unequivocal. Whatever we had to do, we had to do. The people who had already done it. There's nothing more to be done. But it was an issue there. So that's how he told us that, don't panic, but act. I think it's important. In the state of panic, the problem with panic, both positively or negatively, if you are in a highly elated, excited state, even then you will not act. And even if somebody is paralyzed because of sorrow, even then they will not, right? So we have to ensure that we do not get into that state when we are not able to think right and maintain that state of equanimity. So how do we do that? Again, through meditation. We will look at it in a different session. There is quite a bit of content which is available on this topic. The next thing is again an important lesson where Krishna says that if you do things which are good, they will always have the positive impact. If you do something wrong, it will always have a negative impact. Think very important in our career. If we take a wrong step, if there is a misstep that we take, deliberately especially, it is going to have a repercussion. You cannot expect a positive result out of a negative activity. It's very important that we remain. Sometimes we take some short-term views. Okay, let's do it. It's okay. We'll somehow recover from here. But actually, we are never able to recover. It always has a long-term impact. And today, in this world where people are connected, organizations are connected, it's very easy to find out if something is done something which is not right. So that will remain as something. So we have to consciously try to do things which are right. Many of us have this complaint that, I'm so paralyzed. I'm so anxious right now, like the way Arjuna is in this state, that I'm not able to think right. In that time, what should I do? It is by starting to do certain positive things, because your mind is not able to act on anything else. But you are paralyzed with anxiety. In that state, one should slowly start doing positive things, even if they're small things. Start taking some small steps. So slowly the doors will open up. But the last thing one should do is that in that state of anxiety is to start doing negative things, saying that, okay, let me do something. Many people have this tendency, and which is very unfortunate. If I'm not well, I will have a drink and everything will be fine. Nothing is going to get fine. After the impact of the drink, which I don't know how long it lasts, but let us assume it lasts for a few hours. After that, those 4 hours are over, a person is back to the problem. And in the process, he's also lost 4 hours, a little bit of his health, and we also run the big risk of that person making wrong decisions in the drunken state. Nobody in this world ever got an answer in a drunken state. It's all very romantic to, say, tell stories that, some people got some great idea when they drank something, and that is not for fallout of that. It is just that in that state of mind, the person was in a very relaxed state of mind. That is why he got the right answer. It is a temporary, and we still don't know whether it's the right answer. So one should move into that state of being in the right state to make a decision. So if a person is not in that right state of mind, that person should not make a decision at that time. So it is very important to choose when one should act, and of course, when one should not act. The next one is, Krishna, Arjuna's main dilemma is that how do I kill these people? These people will all die. So Krishna does something superb. I mean, everything Krishna does is superb. But the way he turns around the whole thing, he's saying, look, jatasya dhruvo mrityuho. So when one thing which is fixed, when a child is born in this world, we don't know what else is going to happen. But one thing is sure, is that one day this child will die. Right? That is the nature of our soul. That is the nature of our jiva. Right? So this is absolutely fixed. So why are you lamenting something which is definitely going to happen? Here, I think very, very important lesson for us. Let us control the things that we can and not chase things that we cannot, on which we do not have control. We worry so much about things that we don't have any control at all. I may go there, then this might happen. That person may think like this. Then this could happen in that situation. And all these three people can come together and they will work against me and so on. And you can keep on painting these mind stories. But none of it can come as an action. What is it that you can do about it? So there are a few things that, if you are able to sift through the things and say, on these things, I can act. On these things, I do not have a control. So I'm not good, we cannot control. I remember a strategy meeting once happened in Infosys many years ago, almost more than a decade ago. And Nandan Nilekani was addressing all of us. And somebody got up and asked him a question. Nandan, there is some rumor that the IT companies in India will be taxed at a higher rate than the other companies. What are we going to do about it? You know what was his answer? He said, we'll pay higher taxes. If you have to pay higher taxes, we'll pay higher tax. What is there to discuss? Is it in my hand or your hand? It's not a wrong question. Maybe the employee is concerned and he asked that out of a state of concern. But his answer was equally compelling. He's saying, look, this is a strategy session. We are all supposed to discuss what we can do, not lament about things on which we don't have a control. What can we do? At best, we can make a representation to the government that don't tax us and so on and so forth. But it's finally the discretion of the government. And if we want to operate in this country, we have to pay whatever the law of the land says. So I think in our career, we should, or in for that matter, any decision, you know, like the way Krishna tells Arjuna that, let us isolate what your problem is. Why are you feeling anxious? This is what a psychiatrist does. They've tried to find out what is causing that kind of anxiety, depression, or whatever has happened, unfortunately, to that person. So what do? They remove all the reasons which are stated by that person, but are not the actual reasons. So this isolation, if you see Krishna, how beautifully he does it, it's a lesson. Mr. Praveen has got a beautiful picture of Lord Rama, which is the deity in Ayodhya, as a screensaver, I can see it. How was that? How was the deity created? How was that idol etched? or sculpt it is by removing. It's a piece of stone. You have removed certain parts, and what remains is the idol of Lord Rama, right? That's how you do sculpting. The same thing in our case, we have to find out, okay, what are the real reason? What is the real reason for such a thing to happen? And isolate that and focus on this. Lord Krishna then finally focuses, what is your problem? Your problem is, it's actually ironical that a person who has fought so many wars, like Arjuna, is having the question. And remember one thing, which I think many times in our analysis we may miss. Arjuna has single-handedly faced the entire Kaurava army just a few months before the Mahabharata war. At the end of the Virata Parva, all the Kauravas attack Virata. And, there is Bhima and there is Arjuna. Bhima then goes to protect all the cows, and Arjuna takes on the entire Kaurava army. The Kaurava army, almost in entirety, not exactly, but all the prominent warriors are there in that army as well. There is Bhishmacharya, Dronacharya, there is Karna, there is Kripacharya, there is Ashwathama, there is Jayadratha. All these people are still there in that war. But Arjuna single-handedly defeats them. Single-handedly, he's the only person. And here, on top of that, his charioteer there with Uttara Kumara, who was King Virata's son, and a person who was totally shy. He's somebody who just forgets everything about the war. He's running away from that war. He catches him and he says, "Don't run away. You sit here and you just drive the chariot the way I'm asking you to. I will fight the war." Then Uttara Kumara says, "How can you do that?" He says, "I am Arjuna. Don't worry." And Arjuna, before I forget, I wanted to mention one point. We called Arjuna Gudakesha yesterday. That means a person who has curly hair is the common interpretation. But the inner meaning of Gudakesha is someone who has conquered sleep. So if Arjuna did not want to sleep, he will not sleep. He'll be so alert. That was his unique ability. Arjuna has one more name and an adjective, which is again used in the Bhagavad Gita. Finally, Krishna says, Nimittamatram bhava savyasachim. Savyasachi is a name. So, what is the meaning of Savyasachi? It is omnidexterity. That means a person can work with both the hands with equal strength. For example, we call, are you a left-hander or right-hander? But there are some people who are omnidextrous. That means they can write with both the hands. There is an entire community of omnidextrous people. They're all coming together and, of course, making everybody else feel bad because they can work with both the hands, and there are people who can't work even with one hand. So it is a unique thing. Now, why is it important? Why does Krishna say, Nimitta matram bhava savyasachim? You just be the nimitta. You are just an actor in this whole play. I am the person who's doing everything. You are just acting out of my instructions. So don't take yourself so seriously, right? Don't think that you are fighting the war, you are doing everything, you are going to kill them, you are going to attain the sins, you will suffer, you will win. All that is nonsense. Everything is being done by me. Then so why use Savyasachi? Because imagine somebody who is the caliber of Arjuna, who can fight with both his hands. So he could release the arrow like this, which is for a right-hander. He could also release the arrow with the left hand. So to the opponent, first of all, you are facing Arjuna, the warrior unparalleled. And on top, he is omnidextrous. He can shoot anyway. You don't know. So he's a warrior of the highest order. A person like that is still a nimitta in this war. So that is another adjective Krishna uses um, for this in this whole in this whole preaching. The next one, very important lesson, is about this concept of swadharma. Yesterday we addressed this question briefly, so I will not dwell too much on it. It is a concept of niyata karma. That what is niyata? The ordained duty for everybody. A person should perform that properly. Now, this seems like a very intuitive, advice. Everybody should do what they're supposed to do. But unfortunately, we don't understand our ordained duty. And here is a very important thing that we need to keep in mind when we are looking at our career, which is that when you are doing something, when the organization has appointed you to do certain things, you should understand your role in the company. So there is a job description and there is a role description. The job description is what the job actually entails. But the role is exactly what you are supposed to do. What do you want to achieve? What does the organization want you to achieve? Now, our first focus has to be on doing that niyata karma. Whatever are our KRAs, whatever are our, the objectives that we have set, the organization has set for us, those have to be attained. Let us say there's a software architect. His number one goal is to drive the architecture for a certain product or a certain offering that they have. If there is a doctor who's a cardiosurgeon, his ordained duty is to perform the surgeries on the heart as required, and that is his key deliverable. What he does over and above that is a bonus. So let us, I had one person in the team. The person was very good at doing everything other than what he's supposed to do. And it happens. It happens because people get very carried away by what they're doing. Ultimately, the organization will tell them what they should be doing and what they, as a part of their duty. You all would have heard the famous anecdote. Once there was a kingdom and there was a guard who was standing outside that kingdom to protect it, obviously. So one day in the night, it happened that he was guarding the palace, and then he slept. And in his dream, he sees that enemy king is coming to attack this kingdom, and in large numbers. He sees that in his dream. So he goes next day morning to the king, and he says, "I got this dream in the night, and that somebody is attacking us. Can you somehow I feel this is real. There is a reality to it." So the king says, "Yeah, I think we should do it." So he sent some people as spies to find out from the neighboring king whether he is planning to attack. And it turns out that the neighboring king, indeed wanted to attack him. So they were in good terms, very friendly, but something went wrong with that person. He suddenly decided to attack. So when the opposing king attacks this kingdom, and this king is fully prepared now that he knows it's going to be attacked, and he is able to vanquish that king. So he calls this guard after the war is over, and he says, "Thank you a lot for giving us this information. Here is the a special prize that we are giving you, what we call spot awards, right, in companies." So he just picks up something and gives it to him. And then he says, "You're dismissed from your work." This fellow is shocked. He said, "I gave you this." He said, "How did you get that dream?" "Because you slept. You're a guard who is supposed to guard our kingdom. So thank you for this information. We are giving you a prize, but your niyata karma was still to find out, not to see dreams. If that is the case, you take a different role where you're only sleeping and telling us what comes in your dreams." Right? So it is very important that we take and get a thorough understanding. And this may need some probing, because I understand many people on this call are fairly senior people. And we sort of intuitively believe, "Hey, I know what I'm supposed to do. I've done this for donkeys years." No doubt. But it's worthwhile going back to your organization, going back to your manager, going back to your CEO or whoever you report into, and say, "Hey, you know what? Tell me, we leave the KRS have been set. Understood." That is easy to understand because it's in writing. But can I ask you what you really want me to do? right? You may get a very different answer. You may say, yeah, the person will say, this is fine. But in addition, I also want you to play the role of orchestrating all our offerings to the market in the form of a strong GTM. Whatever, it could be anything. That is your role description. It is important to spend some time understanding your role and what you are supposed to do. That is nothing but what Krishna describes as niyata, niyata karma. That is why we recited that first shloka of Bhagavad, this Dvadasha Stotra's third chapter, which is Kuru Bhungshvacha Karma Nijam Niyatam, Haripada Vinamratiya Satatam, Harireva Paro, Harireva Guruhu, Harireva Jagat Pitrumatrugati. So here, a very important thing is Kuru Bhungshvacha Karma Nijam Niyatam. Whatever is the ordained duty, you have to perform that and offer it at the feet of Lord and so on. So this is very, very important for us. And this is what Krishna is advising him as well. Then Krishna tells him gives him another advice and brings that realization on Arjuna. He says, Arjuna, every warrior in the history and every warrior who is going to come even in the future aspires to fight this war because it's a dharma yuddha. You have the opportunity which has landed on your lap to fight this war. And what is the lesson here? Is that we have to be grateful to our organizations to have provided us an opportunity to serve the organization. Unfortunately, everybody does not have the privilege of doing it. Just look at the amount of unemployment which is there in front of, all around us. And that time, the value of what your organization gives you is sometimes we don't look at it at all. We feel okay, I'm working for this organization. It is their duty to do this, right? But I'm entitled to this. That's the other extreme. I'm entitled to this. In fact, I'm entitled to much more. I'm doing a favor by this to this organization by working here. The fact is, if you honestly believe that you are someone who is more valuable in another context, you should make that choice and move on. But don't stay in that organization. Tell the organization every day that I'm doing a big charity by coming and working here. And this is the sense of purpose and sense of gratitude that drives great people. I was reminded of of an anecdote which happened again in my life. My father worked for the Indian Air Force, and we would always be staying in the same campus where Indian Army officers would also stay. And there, what happens is every day in the night there is something called a night beat. That means an officer with say about 10 people would go on a night sortie in the forward areas and the border areas. And in the night, anything can happen, right? So out of 10 people, usually one or two don't show up. They don't come back because they're shot at or they're attacked by somebody who is a terrorist coming from the other part of the other side of the border. This happens regularly, and as it is, those places are very difficult terrains. But imagine that in the thick of the night, anything can happen. So the officer comes every day in the morning and he will say, today, these 10 people in the battalion will come with me. The next day he comes and he picks some other 10 people. If a person who was selected the previous day does not get selected, he will go and protest with that officer. He tells him, why did you not select me? What have I done wrong? Imagine for a person who probably gets 50,000 rupees a month or maybe even lesser, wants to go there out there and kill, virtually is prepared to die. Well, that's not something that anybody wants to do. It's a very high risk operation. And I just talked about what's the hit rate. It's very poor. In that situation, why do people want to go there and kill themselves? It's virtually like a suicide. But why do they do that? Because they are ordained to do that. They have taken that as their niyata karma. I may come back, I may not come back. Imagine whatever we are talking about as Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna is talking to Arjuna. This is practiced on a daily basis amongst thousands and lakhs of people who are protecting our borders every day. And if the officer does not pick up one person for next 10 days, he will go there and sit in front of his officer and say, "You have to let me go today. I want to fight the war." So, what makes a person lose his life for 50,000 rupees is a very, very interesting thing that we can all read. Imagine all of us have the same commitment and dedication to our lives, where our organization could reach, where imagine the kind of gratification we all will get at the end of every day. Now we all, unfortunately, every day in the end, every day we go to sleep with a sense of saying that, okay, I missed out on certain things. That sense of gratification, that sense of fulfillment is not there, right? I will contrast that. Let us say you do an entire day, you perform the Ekadashi. Next day morning, you get up, do the puja, and have that food. Imagine how do you feel? How does your mind feel? You feel very fulfilled because you have taken up something in the service of God, and then you had that prasada, and now it is in your stomach. It settles down so well. Why does this happen? It is because of this reason. Because we have done what we are supposed to do. There is a certain sense of elation, which does not come because of anything else. Any spiritual pursuit will give you this kind of a fulfillment, right? So we cannot, why we do not get it in other places is that anything that is worldly, there's nothing wrong with it, just that it is temporary. Any happiness that we get out of any worldly materialistic pursuit is good. We need it. It is important. We cannot brush it under the carpet. But please remember it is temporary, right? It's like food, great food. How long will it last? It has got an expiry date. Every medicine has an expiry date. Everything that you buy a car, it is going to be today you bought a new car, it's shining. In 3 years time, the shine won't be there. It will go away. That is why one has to have this concept of thinking long term, so that he then says, okay, look, there's nothing wrong in this world. I am not, our Shastras do not say run away from this world. Bhagavad Gita is a classic case. When Arjuna hears about Gnana, he extols. He's very happy to know about Gnana. And then he throws in a googly. He asked that question to Krishna, saying, just now you told me so that Gnana is superior to everything else. Why do you want me to fight this war? Instead, I will go away and I will get Gnana. Krishna says, no, that is not your ordained duty. Like that guard who was sleeping in the night, you cannot go away from what is ordained to you. You have become, you are Indravatara. You have gone and got all these weapons. For what? To fight this war. So you cannot run away from that war. So these are some of the lessons that, Bhagavad Gita gives. To be honest, I will be very honest with you. I had prepared about 20 slides just as a reference about what are the lessons. I'll be very honest, I have completed only four of them. 16 more remain on what we can do in our career. So I'm sure we'll find another day and another time to complete the others. But again, this is not a book that one has to complete. These are lessons which will keep, which we keep getting. So my humble request to all of you is that please read the Bhagavad Gita. Any number of times you read it is inadequate because it gives you a new meaning every time. We've been very fortunate that we have had gurus. The entire Guru Parampara, everybody has written a commentary on Bhagavad Gita. Now, fine, we may not be able to go through all of them, but even reading a simple translation of the Bhagavad Gita in any language of your convenience, our Guru Vyasankara Prabhanjanacharya has written the books, a simple English, a meaning in English, just two-line meanings to a two-line shloka, but it's very accurate in terms of what it wants to convey. So please study the Bhagavad Gita, and you will see that you have lessons that you can take for so many things. I have just put this lens of professional excellence in this. but you want to be a better parent, you want to be a better son, you want to be a better husband, you want to be a better wife, whatever you want. I, Bhagavad Gita has those wonderful illustrations and lessons that we can take. Bhagavad Gita is darshana. All the other Purana Shastras are nidarshana. So we say darshana and nidarshana. Darshana means the philosophy. Nidarshana means illustrations. So you will get a lot of illustrations of all this in in stories that come up in Mahabharata itself, because after all, Bhagavad Gita is a part of Mahabharata. Similarly, Bhagavata, Ramayana, Padma Purana, and so many others. Life of our gurus itself shows what kind of how they had internalized the concept of the concepts which are explained in Bhagavad Gita. The classic case is Sri Raghavendra Swamiji himself, who imbibed the lessons so hard that he decided to do a unique vrata, which is that he will never ask anybody for any alms or anything, even in that state of poverty, even in that state when he had no food. He says, no, I am not going to ask anybody for anything. If I have to remain hungry, I will remain hungry. That is what it's very easy to say this. A person might still say, okay, let me go hungry. But when he sees his family also hungry, without protesting against that state, it can churn and it can disturb anybody. But not Sri Raghavendra Swamiji. He'd led a life which is an epitome and expression of what Bhagavad Gita itself is. So we don't have to go very far. Our Lord, our Sri Raghavendra Swamiji himself is an example. Like that, you will find many such illustrations in other places. So, thanks again for this opportunity to share some of these lessons, which I think personally have helped me a lot, because I reflect on these things in my own career. I wish I had done more of this, and I'm only saying that I'm going to commit myself more to study these lessons more and imbibe it in my career and my life. So I hope all of you found some value, even if there are one or two takeaways, and it has inspired you to study the Bhagavad Gita. I think the purpose of this session has been served. So back to you, Sujit.
Thanks a lot, Sundar. I think it was really very enlightening the last couple of days, right? I think what I'll do is, I know that I shared a couple of takeaways in the mail that I sent out this morning, and today also I've kind of noted a lot of takeaways, as you pointed out. So what I would like is, I'd like to call upon people to, one is basically to ask questions, and this time I will record the questions and answers so that, yesterday it was, we decided not to, but today we're open to that. And then I will leave the floor open for people to kind of talk about what they've actually learned through this session, maybe for another 10, 15 minutes, if it's okay with you, Sundar.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Namaskara, Sundar Avre. This is Sham. Thank you again for a phenomenal, session. The last 2 days have been so high impact. You are someone who's been, you've been leading by example, as a corporate leader. And so coming from you, it seemed the messages seemed very, very authentic and filled with your lived experience. So I no better person who could have delivered these messages over the last 2 days than you, I think. So really deeply thankful to you for that. You set out the issues that we deal with in, that organizations deal with in Italy very well, which is lack of engagement, not meeting aspirations, people lacking purpose in their work, getting drawn down by cutthroat competition and all that. And so then, with all these things dragging us down, what are the lessons we can draw from the Gita? And there are so many points that you shared. I really can't remember all of them, but some things that stood out for me: dharma, following dharma. And dharma, what is dharma? It is the will of Krishna. That is dharma. So you say, when picking a career, pick your battles carefully and stay on the side of dharma always. You taught us to align our purpose to the requirements of our career. So try to align our individual purpose with the what our career requires of us to do, and not to run away from it. Um, we learned that we should stick with a moral standard, always pray, and chronically try to learn and improve ourselves. Approach a guru and approach him, with humility, to get the right answers. Win our mental battles. Like, the battles are mostly fought within us. So when we win our mental battles first, that's half the job done. And then visualize the problems in your mind, and then try to visualize the solutions as well. And that way, prepare in your mind, like how well prepared the Pandavas were, served as a perfect example of how prepared one should be. And once a decision is made, you told us no half measures, um, go the whole hog, and like once a decision is made, execute with completeness. And so that will avoid all the anxieties that come with it. And the one way to make such a certain decision is to know why you are doing it. Once you understand why you're making a decision, then you can stay objective to it. And sometimes if you need to make an objective decision, it's better made by standing apart from it, like standing at sort of an equal distance, and viewing it from a separate lens. That will help us make a more objective decision. And of course, it's never too late to learn. It's never too late to ask questions. And Bhagavanta is always there to help us find answers. Look for a mentor, look for a guru in our career, and always think long term. What is good for us long term? Short term behavior tends to come naturally, but developing a long term career plan is something we have to put the effort in to do. And then always remember what got us here uh, may not get us to the next place. And so we have to adapt accordingly. Put your career vision in the form of a document. Um, and Krishna gives the right perspective. So this is not personal. This is not about you. This is about dharma. This is a war for dharma. It's not your personal gain or loss that's ultimately important. A leader is one who leads from the front to get the job done. You said it beautifully with your own example of how you prepared the presentation when nobody else had it prepared, and how you set the stage for even among the leaders of the nation, you led them all, and that was a heartwarming and wonderful example. And it clearly you followed the footsteps of Hanumanta himself, who led the Vanaras, as you said very nicely. So you also gave us the importance of Upavasa, remembering Sri Rama's story through the Sampati incident. Sometimes difficult decisions are the right decisions when we consider long-term consequences. It's not always the easy decision that's the right one. And while making a career choice, think what is important to your organization, and think beyond your personal preferences. And that is what you have defined as niyata karma. So identify what is your niyata karma, your role in your organization, and act accordingly. Um, and what is dharma? Dharma is the right conduct that adheres to the laws of the universe that are set by Bhagavanta. And so a crucial tool that you explained in a lot of detail is developing equanimity. And in order to develop mental equanimity to face challenges, meditation is a crucial and a central practice. You also told us about the importance of gratitude in the moments of happiness, how we must be thankful to Bhagavanta for everything he has done. And in moments of sadness and difficulty, also, we should learn to take ownership and repent appropriately, and hope that such mistakes don't repeat from us. And when we are stuck with analysis paralysis, always doing a good thing, start with a good act that creates a positive impact. You taught us to control the things that we can control first, instead of bothering about every problem under the sun. Think deeply and get to the bottom of each and every problem, and get feedback from your peers. Don't assume that you necessarily know your role every time, and always ask for appropriate feedback, and be grateful for all the opportunities that your organization has provided you, and bring a sense of gratitude to work. And so to summarize, I think it can all be put together by words of our Srimad Acharyaru: Guru Bhungshva cha karma nijam niyatam, Haripada vinamradhiya satatam, Harireva paro, Harireva guruhu, Harireva jagat pitra matra gatihi. Deep gratitude to you, Sundar Avre. Thank you so much for such a wonderful session. I hope we all can take inspiration. I'm sure we're all inspired by the session, and we're all filled with gratitude, and I'm sure we're all excited to implement these learnings in our lives. So thank you again, once again, Sundar Avre. Namaskara. Shri Krishna Arpanam.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shyam ಅವರೇ. ಇನ್ಯಾರು ಏನೋ ಹೇಳೋದಿದೆಯಾ? Anybody else wants to ask a question or any other or remarks?
ಸುಂದರ್ ಅವರೇ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ರಮೇಶ್ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಂದ. ನಿಮ್ ಟೇಕ್ ಏನು L&T ಚೀಫ್ ಮೊನ್ನೆ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಡಿಬೇಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, 90 hours per week, ಭಗವದ್ಗೀತಾ ರಿಲೆವೆನ್ಸ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ.
See, there is towards the end of Bhagavad Gita, there is a shloka where Krishna is precisely talking about work-life balance. He says, he talks about Sukta Sukta Viharasya, that shloka, which is basically saying that, one has to have a sense of balance. Ati Sarvatra Varjayat, right? The thing is, I think one has to strike that balance. That is why it's called work-life balance. It's very, very important. There are a lot of articles being written in India about, the damage that not taking a break can cause to a person. So I think it's an extreme prescription by the gentleman. Of course, I'm not too sure whether it was done in a state of full consciousness, because definitely as a company, L&T is an organization which is very revered, and people who work there love to work there forever, and most of them are lifetime employees of that company. So there is the Bhagavad Gita, I think, gives that overlaying topic of being able to maintain that energy and that state of consciousness by balancing everything. It is one of the few places where it encourages you to take a break, actually. Vihara, that means just going on a walk in the park is the time that one should give oneself. This is mandated there. It's not something which is just suggested, because one definitely needs to break that chain. So, in my opinion, the we should just let this slide. I think it could have been said in some context that I'm not fully aware of, and it could even be a thing which could have been which probably was said in a lighter vein, not knowing the impact it was. Definitely don't subscribe to that view. The if you see the whole, the spiritual routine that is, sort of mandated by our shastras, it is actually to preserve yourself for a much longer time. If you see, most people who stick to those routines even today are far, far more healthier than people who are not following it. So I think a good mix of, how do you keep your exercise regimen? How do you take breaks from work? How do you reflect on whatever we do, etc., is very, very important. And one should definitely be doing it. Yesterday also we referred to the Bill Gates example about how he withdraws himself from everything else. Um, it's very, very important for us. So yeah, that's my view. Don't agree with that statement at all. And the other addendums of what he said were definitely deplorable. I don't think that he should have gone into that realm. I think probably the organization and he himself might come above the rejoinder after some time, and I would expect them to do that. Being a PR professional myself, sometimes it's better not to speak when you have created a crisis. You just have to allow the dust to settle a little bit. But you're right. In India, the press has just taken off, and everybody and his uncle is now having a view on that.
Thank you, thank you.
If no one is in the line, then I would like to go for it.
Yes,
Go
please.
ahead, please. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Hare Srinivasa, sir. My simple question is I keep changing the gurus, in the sense sometimes I have more love and devotion towards Raghavendra Swami, sometimes towards Vadiraja Swami, towards various gurus, various gods. Is this a common pattern or common nature among the everyone, or is it happening just with me? So I would like to clarify on this. I keep
No,
yeah.
you're in a very good space, sir. There's absolutely no problem with this, because you are asking me a question, which is better, apples are better or oranges are better? Both are sweet.
Yeah.
So here, it is very common that it happens, mainly because in certain state of mind, we like somebody's writings differently. Let us say somebody is in an imaginative mood. then reading Sri Vadaraja's work is very, very inspiring, because he goes with that creative, presence, and his way of presentation is superb. At the same time, Sri Raghavendra Swamiji is a master at commenting on things in detail as well as in a very pithy manner. He makes things very, very simple for people to grasp. So if somebody is looking for simple, straightforward lessons, then Sri Raghavendra Swamiji's work is bound to appeal to him. Similarly, if it is something to do with more of logical thinking, putting it in a perspective which is to be understood in entirety, at the same time simple, at the same time really thought-provoking, and a complete, like I talked about, a complete meal. It is Sri Jayatirtha's work. So it is common, and there is absolutely nothing wrong in it. What we have to remember is all these gurus ultimately taught us the Madhva philosophy. So the philosophical roots of all these people is identical, and you will not find one sentence in the entire text, the body of knowledge which is there, where anything is at a contradiction with something as what someone else said. Forget about within the Vyasa Sahitya. Look at the Dasa Sahitya part, which is in another language. If you look at the work done by the Haridasas, there is not a single letter, not one word, not one sentence which is out of step with what somebody else said, which I think is the strength of the philosophy itself. So you are not changing the guru, you're still having the same guru as Madhvacharya, but you are studying different ways they got expressed. Also, please remember one thing, sir, is that they were all at different times. So they have written books which were right for the philosophical context that they were part of. So, for example, if you see, Srimad Madhvacharya is very, very pithy. I think the creator of bullet points in this world is Srimad Madhvacharya. People, say that he's so pithy that he can be irritatingly pithy, they say. Very, very short sentences, very, very much to the point, and the amount of ground that he sort of covers is humongous. That is Srimad Madhvacharya's style. Why did he adopt that style? Because the people around him at that time were of the very highest scholastical levels. So he didn't have to explain to everybody. And he was fully aware that there will be commentators on his work who will then simplify it to the audience that was prevalent at that point in time in that context. So you will not find an exact mirror image of everything, mainly because it has gone through more and more and more and more level of simplification, which has happened over the years to suit the context. So it is very common that the works of different gurus appeal to you at different points in time. But my only suggestion is, please put a systematic calendar of pursuing it instead of picking up books at random, because that will not lead to a body of knowledge. If somebody wants to become a doctor, he has to go to a medical school and study the whole medicine, the field of medicine. He has to undergo a proper course. Only then he will be called a doctor. Somebody goes to a bookstall, I know a great bookstall near my house, and buys all the books connected and reads by himself. That will not add to a body of knowledge. It has to, like, different courses have different syllabi, different, even spiritual pursuits have their own syllabus. So we have to stick to that syllabus. And within that, any commentator that you read is something that is very understandable. So don't be worried about it. I think you are on the right track. Just make it more structured so that you keep learning constantly, learning the basic concepts of Madhva philosophy first, and then you build the edifice on top of that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir.
Divya, you had a question?
Yeah, Hare Srinivasa, Hare Krishna, Namaste, sir. This is the first time I'm interacting with you. The memory goes back to seeing your first speech few years ago, and post that I was inspired to actually write an email to Madhva for Youth and see if I could be a volunteer. And post that after so many years, I'm actually seeing you live here. The question I had is, it's a personal question, but it's actually for drawing some inspiration. And I'll say the reason why I'm asking this question is I've seen you basically put these kind of concepts and topics together for lectures, which are almost like taking our adhyatma and bringing that to reality and our lives. I've seen how you've done life lessons from Prahlad Rajaru as well. So question here is, what was a moment or when did you think that you have to start doing this? Basically bringing the adhyatmic aspects to our reality. And the reason I'm asking this question is many of us, many a times, listen to lectures, both pravachnas and these kind of motivational speeches. When it comes to reality, when it comes to actually putting this into practice, we fail or thoughts don't come to us. So my question is, if it has come to you, it could have come because of a moment, and hopefully we can draw inspiration from it. So it's a long question, but the intention is to see how we can draw inspiration.
Yeah. No, thank you, madam. Thank you so much for asking this. Um, one thing I would, so first of all, thanks for offering to volunteer for us. We are perennially looking for people because our charter just is expanding every single day, and love to partner with you in that. So please, we will definitely connect offline to pursue this.
It will be
And
my honor. It will be my honor, absolute honor. Thank you.
yeah, thank you. Similarly, I think definitely like to have people coming from different backgrounds as well, because we got so much work to do. Depending on what people want to do, we love to have volunteers work with us. There are a lot of initiatives that we have started, and we just want the momentum to go and let it be continued in the future as well. So, coming to your question, whether there was a moment or some time that it occurred to me that these lessons have to be brought to daily life. I think I owe this completely to our Guru, Dr. Vyasankara Pramanjanacharya. He is a person who always made an effort to bring these two things together. And after I started listening to him more and more and more, I, started feeling that, okay, now this is the moment that, these lessons can become very, very valuable. There have been many such moments, so it's very difficult to isolate. But since you asked me this question, one anecdote that I can share with you, which happened in my life. I used to work for a company, and I used to be the head of marketing. So PR, media relations came under as a part of my job. So in that company, two senior people had resigned from that role, and that news had leaked to the press somehow. And we got a query from one of the leading pink papers in India, that has the is it true? Can you confirm or not? So that came to me as a query. So I went to the senior management of the company, CEOs and HR heads and everyone, and I said, look, what should be our response? So they said, no, this is not true. I only learned later that they actually had resigned, but I was not aware that they had resigned. So what do we say? No, you should say that we deny this, and this information is not right. So when I was drafting it, I said, look, this is a response I have drafted, but do some, I sent it to the management team before I sent it out. I asked them that question saying, is it fine? So one of them said, you should say we vehemently deny. Add that word vehemently. So I discussed, nobody else said anything, and it was getting late, and we were worried they will do a scoop if we don't respond. So I sent it consciously, said I'm not going to add that word vehemently, because if you add adjectives unnecessarily, it only underlies their position. They're creating more doubts. Why should we say vehemently deny? If I ask you what color of kurta I'm wearing, it's green. Why should I say it is vehemently green? There's no need. So we should not say things like that. So I just sent it like that. And the next day, the Economic Times, they did carry a scoop because their information sources were obviously very strong. And they came up with this thing that two senior people have exited the organization. And they also mentioned that we put up this query, and the company said they deny this. So all hell broke loose in the company, and they said, "Look, the person who had told me, he called me. He said, why didn't you add that word called vehemently?" I said, "Look, even if I had added it, it would not have made any difference, They had already got the scoop. They were going to do it anyway. And they have very good sources within the company who have leaked it. So I cannot do anything. And in fact, it would have gone other than that. We gave them a point response. But that was not sufficient. I knew there will be a lot of discussion in the company. So the CEO of the company then convened a meeting for all of us to go and talk. When I entered that meeting, I did precisely what I talked about in Ramayana, where I went inside and said, look, before we start this meeting, I want to give you a context about what happened. I did this. Somebody suggested that we should add this word vehemently. I did not add it. I made a conscious decision. As a head of marketing, I've made the decision, I've sent it out. If you believe that this was not the right thing, I will take full responsibility for this. Immediate response was everybody came to me and said, we should, no, it would not have made any difference. What you did was the right thing. Your response was fine. We leave it. Let's look at the damage control that we can do. So immediately it brought the temperatures in the room down. And I specifically did it because I knew that person will bring up this point. But even before such a thing were to happen, if you take accountability for that, then it obviously absolves yourself. It was a very tense day for me because I was leaving for the office and this person called me. I was pretty agitated. I was planning to drive the car. I said, no, I'm too agitated today. Let me take a back seat, literally. And I asked the driver to drive for me and take me to the office. So this was one thing which validated a lot of things that I had studied as a part of this. But listening to Shri Prabhajanacharya and later on to Shri Vishweshwatirtha Swamiji, I think he is a master at, he was called Drishtanta Chakravarti. Because for every sentence that he speaks, he will give an example and illustration. So if you look at the Shastra structure itself is like that. For everything that you study, there is an example, there is an illustration which is mentioned. Why is that done? Because you obviously want a connection from a philosophical message, which sometimes can be very abstract. You may not know how does it work in flesh and blood. If you want to do that, it connects it to an anecdote. And we are talking about Shastras. Just take a step back and see what Shastras are supposed to do that. We spoke yesterday. If it's Ananda Tirtha Shastra, it should give you Ananda. So why do all this? It is supposed to help us in all walks of life. Right? Moksha or salvation may be the ultimate aim. But there are several intermediate pleasures and happiness and state of bliss that we can see even here. So if we do that and put it to good use, we can improve our lives on a daily basis. So Shastra is meant for all state. Nowhere is it said in the Shastra that we should suffer while we are here just to experience some great bliss which may come later. We are not even sure whether we are going to get that bliss. We are eligible to
Eligible or
get
not. Yeah.
So if Shastras are something which are all pervasive and they're encyclopedic in nature, they have to address all aspects of our life. That was the basic assumption. But when I started putting the lessons that I learned to that test, I realized that indeed there are many, many lessons that one can imbibe from there. And that is how this whole thing started.
Yep, very inspiring. I hope we can draw as much as we can and apply it to our lives when needed. Thank you again, sir.
Thank you.
Just to add, Sundar, Divyashree and Shyam are basically part of the same core group for the DSP, the Sahitya Parichaya group. So we're trying to accomplish. So we'll definitely talk to you on how we can collaborate with the Madhvacharya for youth also. And so yeah. Prabhu and Tinno Bridare, but I think he's not here. Sudha may be here, Sudha Prabhu. Or maybe she's dropped off actually. Yeah. Shiva, idira ನೀವು Shiva? Shivachandra, or I think people are starting to drop off, I think. Okay. Any other questions from anybody? I think we can probably close the session otherwise. If you can all come on camera, we can take a picture, a group picture for a split second here. Let me put it on Anybody have any questions?
So,
Sorry.
Sujit, just before we wrap up, I just thought I'll share these two resources that
Okay.
we have. On YouTube, we have the Ataha Madhvacharya for the Youth page. One can subscribe to that page, as well as the Instagram, a post that we've recently started about 6-7 months back. Not, I think it's about 4 months back, and it has, again been very well received by people. So please do that. We give short messages, 30 to 50 seconds, on, for example, relevant of Makara Sankranti. That's the next festival that is on upon us. Why do we do what we do? Which is, why do we give yellow bella? Why do we do that? What's the significance of that? Along with some of the messages of our philosophy, which again can be expressed in a common forum. So, for example, somebody asks you to say, what is Madhva philosophy? How will you say that in 1 minute? That's the challenge. We took it upon ourselves, and we have given an articulation that you can use. Somebody says, okay, what does Madhva philosophy really mean? On the 9 tenets, we have expressed it in about 55 seconds. So all such things that can be used um, to understand our philosophy. So I'm just putting it out there. Please do subscribe, and you'll get a regular feed. Thank you so much, Sujit. Back to you.
Thank you. Yeah. Sudha, already you want to add? I know that.
No, I just wanted to say thank you. I think it's been really enlightening. And also, I think it brings in a perspective if we are able to relate to day-to-day kind of examples. As always, I think Mr. Sham, Auro, and Divya, they're very great in and very deep in this particular topic. Just hearing him summarize itself gave the gist of all the things that we had missed for last 2 days. So I think it's been very good. Thank you so much. Also, I thought like with Sugunendra Roro coming here and asking each one of us to write our Gita Yagna, this is very relevant for us to hear. Even though you were not able to share the remaining part of the slides, if we can get the gist of it, it's very valuable for us.
Absolutely.
In our day-to-day life, and address our professional dilemmas in a better way, I think.
Absolutely, ma'am. I'll do that. Please give me a couple of days. I will summarize everything in the form of a short note, and I would request Sujit to share it with everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. If you can all come on video for a split second, we can probably take a picture. Divesh, ತಗೋತೀರಾ?
Yeah, it will be my honor to take it.
Yeah.
Okay, ಒಂದು 30 ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ, and then I'll let everybody set.
Yeah.
Okay, if everybody can settle, I'll take the picture. Hare Krishna, everybody. One more. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a nice presentation, Sundar ಅವರೇ. ನೀವು ಉಡುಪಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದ ಇದು ಸೀರೀಸ್ ಲೈವ್ ನೋಡಿದ್ವಿ. 3 days ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ, 4 days ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿ ನೀವು.
Thank you so much.
ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಈ ಸಲ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇದಕ್ಕೂ ನೀವು ಮುಂಚೆ ಇದ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಲ್ವಾ, ಇದು ಫಾರ್ ಯೂತ್ ಅಂತ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲೂ ಇದು ಟಿವಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ವಿ ನಾವು, ಇದು ಲೈವ್ ಟಿವಿ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬಹಳ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ. ಯಾ, so it's too much to observe, but we'll see how far we can go through that one.
Sure.
Thank you
so much.
ಸುಂದರ್ ಅವರೇ, ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿತ್ತು. ನನ್ಗೆ ಇನ್ನೇನು ಮುಗಿತಾ ಇದೆ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಅನ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಒಂದ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಬೇಜಾರಾಯ್ತು, ಇದು ಮುಗ್ದೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ಬಟ್ ಅದೇ ಮೊಮೆಂಟಿಗೆ ನೀವು ಇದು ಬರೀ 4 ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ಇರೋದು, ಇನ್ನೂ ತುಂಬಾ ಇದೆ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ. ಮೆಡಿಟೇಷನ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಒಂದು ಸೆಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತೆಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಂಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಖುಷಿ ಆಯ್ತು. ಐ ರಿಯಲಿ ಲುಕ್ ಫಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್ ಟು ಇಟ್. It was really enlightening. ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ I will definitely attend. I look forward. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. No, I'm absolutely committed to this, madam. ನಾನು ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ basically any time I have made this rule for myself. Anybody calls me for to deliver a lecture, I will not say no unless I am on the in the edge of a precipice. I will not say no. Like yesterday, it happened. Because of the schedule, I had to reschedule my flight coming from Bombay. I said no, no regrets. This is far, far more important. Um, because you never know whether you will get another chance to do something like this. So I think, and within that, my prioritization was also clear because Sri Venkateswara Bhakti channel, you would see a lot of lectures of mine on the television channel as well. We are trying to get some of those recordings and put it in our YouTube channel also. Shortly, we'll be doing that. And for me, the prioritization is Venkateshwara Bhakti channel #1 because that's coming from Tirupati all the way. So no, I will never say no to them at all. And for any other opportunity, more than happy to share whatever little I've learned. So anytime Sujit calls me, I'm there. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
There is a story in Mahabharata also, which underlines this very well. There is a Brahmin, poor Brahmin. He wants to perform the Upanayana of his son, but he's very poor, so he does not have money. So he goes and asks Yudhishthira. This is after the war. Yudhishthira is a king, and he tells Yudhishthira, he requests him, "Can you give me some money?" So Yudhishthira says, "Look, it's the middle of the night you have come, and I don't have any money with me. So if you can come tomorrow, I will give you money." Then the Brahmin boy, the gentleman says, "Okay, I will come tomorrow," and he goes away. Suddenly they hear, this nagari, they call it the nagari, the drums. Suddenly they hear the sound of the drums in the middle of the night. So everybody is curious. See, that is always played only when the kingdom has won a war. It's a celebration. You would have seen this pizza shops. When you are happy, they ask you to ring a bell. So it's like that. So he goes there, and everybody's curious which is the war we have won and who is playing these drums. So Yudhishthira comes out, everybody comes rushing and sees that it is Bhima who is standing and playing that drum. So Yudhishthira asks him that what have we won? So he says, "You have won today. You have won your war over death. So you seem to have conquered death." So Yudhishthira is shocked. He says, "Where have I conquered death?" He says, Bhima says, "You asked him to come tomorrow. So you are very sure you are going to be there tomorrow. So you see, you have conquered death." Imagine Bhima is telling this to who? He is telling it to Yudhishthira, who is the incarnation of Lord Yama himself. So Yama's life is also not in his hands. So, it is a sarcasm that Bhima uses to educate him. So then he says, how did you come to know about all this? He says, "After you said no, that Brahmin came to my house. And what did I do? He was wearing a bracelet. He immediately takes out the bracelet and gives it to him. That moment, we have the opportunity to do something. So why would I wait for it till tomorrow morning? And who is saying that I may not live tomorrow? Bhima. Who is Bhima? Prana. He is the incarnation of Vayu, Prana. He himself is saying that I am not sure whether I am going to live tomorrow or not. So the Lord of Death and the Lord of Life, both are not sure whether they are going to live tomorrow. So what about us? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sundar. Thank you very much. I think we can stop on that note, perhaps. But I think there's no end to learning. So we'll continue this journey through this year. I think, right? I think the DSP group basically is like ಇವರು ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ರು ಪವಮಾನಾಚಾರ್ಯರು, we're all ಸಂಕಲ್ಪ ಬದ್ಧರು to kind of organize all these programs and kind of help spread this knowledge and help assimilate this knowledge and practice it in our daily lives. So thank you all once again. Thank you to everybody for attending this. Looking forward to your support. And like I was saying, if you can enroll in that DSP community group, we will continue to do that, and we'll organize it alongside NESRSB and GKVV also. So thank you once again. Shanti mantra helbidana ಈಗ, and we'll conclude the program. सर्वे च सुखिनः सन्तु सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु श्रीमद्वेषार्पणमस्तु
Hari Om. Thank you for the DSP for bringing this.
Hare Srinivas.
Hare Srinivas.
Thank you, Sujit ಅವರೇ.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sangeeta.